The way that I like to do it whenever I go into a facility is the very first thing is, and I stole this is completely stolen from one of the power companies. It's a good paradigm that I would challenge each and every one of you to go back to your locations and do. The first thing is analysis. What are we currently doing right now? How are we charging our lift trucks? What are we using for our lighting? What are we using for propane? How much are we paying? Et cetera, et cetera. Figure out where we're at, what we want to do, how many days a week do you work, what's your staffing, can we do some things? We had to do some creative things in Sacramento with moving shifts. We couldn't do a typical 7 to 3, 3 to 11, and 11 to 7. Is that what you guys run?
They're staggered.
Okay, good. Well, we had to do stuff like that. And some people get a little funky about that. I mean, I know I'd like to work 3 12s. Be done with a 4-day weekend every week. That'd be great. Okay, but some people don't like to do that. Some operations just don't permit that, especially if you're manufacturing. You got to be making your product. So anyway, do your analysis, figure out what it is you want to do and what you're currently doing. The next step is conservation. And conservation is just flat out using less energy. When you turn lights off with a motion sensor, that's the first peg of this, is to just use less. Just do less, use less. Jimmy Carter, back in the hole, put your, what was it, 68 degrees. He bunted all the thermostats in America, set at 68. That's conservation. Use less energy. The next is efficiency. And that's what you did with the lights. They actually use less energy to get the same lumens. Okay? Next, what is it, the middle of 2011, so probably 8 months from now, you'll no longer be able to buy light bulbs that are rated for capacity. You go into your bathroom, what's the size of the light bulb that you use in there? 100 watts. You go into your den or your study, what's the light bulbs that you use in there? 70 watts. What's the wattage of a fridge bulb? 40 watts. Everybody knows that one, right? Next year, all wattage goes away. Everything will be rated on lumens, how bright a light is. Which is kind of cool, because now that you got fluorescence, do you remember that 60 is an 8 kilowatt fluorescent bulb? No, you're not going to remember that. In fact, when we look at fluorescent bulbs, and I'm guilty of this whenever I go into Home Depot or Lowe's, when I buy a fluorescent bulb, I have to look at what it compares to. I'll buy this one because it compares to a 60 watt, and that's what I want, right? So that's all going to go away. So get ready for that next year. It's going to completely confuse you. So efficiency, that's the next tier of saving and trying to do things better. Next is time of use management. And what that is what we just talked about. Are you using energy at the most expensive time of the day? First off. Second, do you know about it? And third, can you make some sort of change to not do it? This customer in Sacramento made a change. They had to buy extra battery chargers and stack them on top of things, and they had to run the risk of getting everything charged at night. Okay, so if something happened at night that couldn't charge their entire fleet, they were going to be up a creek. Okay, so can you do that? Can you live with that? Can you make changes to the time of use? Because if you can, you stand to save big, big money. And last but not least is demand response. Does anybody here know about demand response?
Like peak shaving?
It is like peak shaving, exactly. What it is when the power company is at a max, like let's say we know it's going to be 90 degrees tomorrow, 100 degrees tomorrow. At 4 o'clock at night, what's happening? At 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Everybody's getting home. What are they doing when they get home? They turn the air conditioning on. What do the kids do when they get home? TV. They fire up the TV. They fire up the computer, the PlayStation, right? All that stuff's going. That's the worst time for energy. You're making dinner, right? All the stuff is going on. Demand response is when we know the day ahead of time that it's going to be a crazy day. Like we saw with that graph on the KISO chart. We know it's going to be bad. So we come to you and we say, hey, you're a 400 kilowatt per day user. If you can shut down 10% between the hours of 4 and 5, I will rebate you $100 per kilowatt that you come back with. And they do that. There's 2 levels of demand response. The first is they control the switch. The second is you control the switch. Which one do you think is more lucrative to you?
They control the switch.
They shut you down when they need to shut you down. If you can live with certain things like that. Anybody here cold storage? No? Cold storage people are probably the ones who are pretty much the only people that can't live with that. Because if you take them off the grid, they've got inventory that could start spoiling and stuff like that. Yes, sir?
We are signed up with Excel on the demand response.
Okay. And how do you like it?
And they have control over us. We talked about our lighting package. We were the last facility in the whole organization to get our lighting changed out because our per kilowatt hour charge from Excel was the lowest in the whole organization?
Can I ask what it was? 6 cents,
I don't
7
know
cents?
exactly.
Okay. National average is 9 cents, so if you're under that, you're doing phenomenally, which a lot of people are under that because of the way the economy is and locking into power, doing creative things. I would challenge every one of you, the best place for you to get money this year and into 2011 is in your energy. We have already wrung the rag completely clean of head count, of productivity. We're squeezing as much stuff into a 5-pound bag as we can. We've done everything we can to get lean and get good at what we're doing. The last peg of that is to go back to your power company and do exactly what Brian said and talk with them about these opportunities. Again, the first part of it is, what are we currently doing? We have to understand what we're using. So we got to know what we're paying for kilowatt hours. We got to know how many we're using. Then we got to know what we can do to start shutting things off. Motion sensors, if you guys don't have motion sensors in your warehouses, put them in. They pay for themselves inside of like 6 months. The price of a motion sensor now is dirt cheap. From there, efficiency, T8 lighting, forklift chargers like we're talking about, all different kinds of stuff can save you. All this is doing the exact same amount of work with less energy. Okay, this is doing less work, period, using less energy. This is doing the same amount of work, but using less energy out of the wall. Okay, time of use, just trying to move that stuff around, peak shaving. And then last but not least, demand response. If you throw the keys to the power company and let them drive, you stand to make some cash. Okay, but you have to be able to do it, because if you sign up for it and then they come and shut you off and you start crying, game over. You're off the thing. And what do you guys have? 12 events a year?
We have 40 hours.
40 hours. So that's it. You're just guaranteeing them 40 hours, really. Come on. I know we're all busy. I know we all work very hard. But that 40 hours that you give back to the power company, if it just so happens that that half hour that they need is during 4 to 5 o'clock when everybody's firing up their PlayStations and the kids are all getting home and all that kind of stuff, that could be very, very lucrative for you to come off the grid and do things that you're not even using. I read an article on the way here today that talked about PCs. How many of you in your organization have PCs that stay on when your employees go home? They were calculating up the cost of all the electricity that uses and assigning a carbon footprint to it, and it was ridiculous. There's a new product out now that you can give your MIS folks, and it ties right into the network. As soon as that computer goes dead for a given amount of time, it shuts it down. Or you can shut it down hardwire at the clock. So if you know all your employees are gone at 5 o'clock, every single computer shuts down. It's not going to completely just kill the power on them where they lose all their saved work. It's going to take them down in a nice way. It sends a network signal into the computer, which shuts it down. Technology now is just moving so fast to try and get us back to the basics of doing all this stuff. But what you look at when you look at this triangle, and the reason that cost savings arrow goes up is the higher you get on this peg, the more money you're going to save. The more lucrative it's going to be for your company to do this. And I would challenge you to do it with the top 3. The first is lighting. That's the big one. The second is motors, heating motors, HVAC, all that kind of stuff. If you've got motors that run any of your manufacturing, they've got better motors now that use better electricity. And the third thing is forklift chargers. If you're charging a forklift in your plant right now, and that charger is older than 5 years old, we can come in and save you 20% of your energy. If it's older than 5 years. They're still selling today the other charger technology. We still sell it and manufacture it. I don't know why, but it's basically the same reason why we're buying incandescent lights nowadays. Who in their right mind would buy an incandescent light when a fluorescent light does it with 1/10 of the energy? The classic rebuttal to that, and I said it because I got one in my den. Well, fluorescents don't dim. I'm walking through Home Depot the other day. Guess what they got now? Dimmable fluorescents. So technology is coming and it's removing all the barriers as to why we do it.